Ole, we've got an exciting show today with a new guest. We're joined by Dr. Charles Ward, who is a financial expert, and we're delighted to have him here on the show. Ole, doctor, how are you?
I'm doing good. And I'm very happy that Dr. Charlie here could join us.
Welcome to the show,
welcome
Charlie.
To the show.
Sorry?
Welcome to the show. Can you give our viewers a little bit of background for people who perhaps haven't seen you before?
Yeah, sure. I've been moving money around the world for a number of private clients, which range from the super rich to government officials to other officials around the world for many, many years now. And I tend to work in the Middle East, mainly. I live in southern Spain, but I commute between Spain and Dubai most of the time. And basically, when I was moving a large amount of money for a specific government, 6 years ago, I was with a member of that government who informed me, just as we were traveling, that they were going to collapse the world's economy in a few years' time. That was 6 years ago. And then 2 years ago, they said, we're nearly ready now. I saw him we were doing another job. We'd taken in a large amount of money into India, just to assure that Modi got into power. But he said to me, we're nearly there now. We've got Trump in power, so we're getting very close. And then I saw him again in December of last year, and he said, we're going to do it at the start of this coming year. We're going to collapse the world's economy. And I just said as a joke, really? How are you going to do that then? He said, you wait and see. We'll collapse the world's economy just like that. And of course, when the virus came in and it collapsed the world's economy, the first warning sign to me was the fact that the virus itself actually got downgraded by the WHO and the CDC back in March of this year. And if you go on both of their websites, you can see it was downgraded in March. So it was used as a smokescreen. And then he enlightened me a bit more about what they were going to do if that didn't work. The next stage was the vaccine. If the vaccine, they'd get enough mileage out of that, it'd be 5G. And then if 5G didn't, there'd be riots. And he informed me of this well in advance. So I just found it was my duty, because people that I spoke to were just incredibly scared. I've never seen people so scared. And it makes you realize one thing that I haven't mentioned. I was born and brought up in a religious cult, and I was brainwashed from birth. Brainwashed from birth until I was 23 years old.
Wow.
And although the legal term is not brainwashing unless you're a Muslim, if you're a Christian, it's called indoctrination. It's got a posher name. Means exactly the same thing. But so I dealt with the fact that when I was 23, I had to start finding out what was true and what was not true. So I became inquisitive from a young age. So when this situation started, I was fairly well prepared mentally to investigate when you had parents that have lied to you all your life, then when you don't expect any more from a government, you expect more from your parents than you do from a government. So when I started to investigate, there were so many things that just didn't add up. And every time I was asking the questions of the guys that I knew behind the scenes, I basically just got a little wink as if to say, we're in control. And you could tell in the tone of their voice that they were in control of what they were doing. And what surprises me now in hindsight is we were 4 weeks into this lockdown when they told me we've gone past the critical point.
What did they mean by that?
That Trump and his alliance have gone past the fact that they could be beaten by the deep state and the cabal.
Gone past it meaning what? That they had defeated Trump?
they'd taken control of the Federal Reserve. There's three parts that they had to take control of. The Federal Reserve obviously plays a huge part. The Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, George Soros, they're all linked in one circle. Then you've got the Vatican, which is another part. And the third part is the Illuminati, which is headed up by the royal family in England.
Well, we're getting into some stuff here, Charlie, that probably is going to touch on the dangerous sort of things that usually get videos struck and removed from YouTube. So I do want to take a moment to remind our viewers that every Monday when we do the show Light on Conspiracies with Ole Dammegard, people can watch the in-depth conversation. It's going to be starting just about 20 minutes from right now, and that's going to be on patreon.com/lightonconspiracies. Is the Subscribe Star channel ready yet, Ole?
No.
Okay, so for Ole, for people who want to sponsor Light on Conspiracies, please visit patreon.com, and you can also see the show on Subscribe Star for sponsors of Crowdsource the Truth. And you know, Charlie, the reason why we do this is that we're touching on a lot of subjects that, frankly, I think you're correct about, but are generally considered not YouTube friendly. A lot of people think that Ole and I are conspiracy theorists and that some of the things that you're talking about obviously must be conspiracy theories, which has taken on the new meaning of being incorrect. However, I think you are talking about and pointing to evidence that indicates an actual conspiracy.
Well, I think Ole and I are both on exactly the same page in the fact that we're not conspiracy theorists, really. We're just truth seekers.
Right.
And the trouble is they've been covering up the truth for many years. And when you cover up the truth for many, many years, you land up believing the lie behind it. And a lot of these people who are covering up the lie believe it because they've become indoctrinated or brainwashed into that way of thinking.
Exactly. And aren't you in danger just sharing this information with us? I mean, the people you're talking about remain unknown to the audience, but obviously you are known to them. Why wouldn't they just kill you for telling us this?
Well, I'm going to say something pretty sad right now. I lost my oldest son 11 years ago in a car accident. He was killed in Spain in his Lamborghini.
Whoa.
And from that day to this, I've lost all fear of death. Because if they want to kill me and finish me, I'll just go and be with my eldest son. Mm. So I've got a very pragmatic view about it. And I'm sure my wife and my younger son, my children and grandchildren would miss me. But the fear of death has completely disappeared. And it's quite interesting that you've said that, because I've got a number of friends who work for the Secret Service. And I've been threatened more than once for things that I've said. And the fact that I show no fear to them makes them incredibly nervous.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
for
we
me,
should also
it's quite a turn on.
Absolutely. Well, Charlie, we should also mention for people who are seeing you for the first time, you've got a YouTube channel that's been getting a lot of attention lately. People can look up Charles Ward on YouTube and follow your videos here. People should subscribe to Charlie and begin to understand some of the things we're going to be talking about in just 20 minutes when the sponsor exclusive segment begins on Patreon and Subscribe Star. Ole, what do you think about what Charlie is telling us?
No, I'm really looking forward to learn more and more, because it's specifically from insiders that we can get a better understanding of what's actually going on. So this is why I always try to find really special guests with a lot of knowledge, and this is where it was so wonderful. I just bumped into Charlie the other day. We didn't know about each other, I think, and we were invited to the same party where Charlie was one of the key speakers, and it's the first time I've seen a sort of like a bigger event. It wasn't massive in any way or form, but it was still the first gathering where I felt where people are really becoming aware and they're eager to learn more, and they're so fed up with what is going on. So it was a wonderful, wonderful feeling to be among these beautiful people.
It's interesting that Spain is opening up a little bit now that you can socialize and meet with other people. Can you tell us any more about how things... New York today is phase 2 of reopening the city. I haven't had a chance to go outside and see what that looks like, but as of yesterday, it still looked like Mad Max around here.
Well, I thought we were in phase 3. Apparently, I think we're in phase 2 now. I don't think they even know themselves hardly, because it's sort of the rules are just so ridiculously. I mean, it's just, you can't build a sandcastle, but you can sit in a bar. You can't pee in the water, but you can walk in the street. You're allowed to meet 90 people now, but 91 you will be fined up to 3,000 euros. It's like
it's very scientific.
Yeah, it's like the 91st one. That must be a suicide bomber or something like that, because it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But this is where we have to see what is actually going on, because the virus thing is just a distraction. Just like I'm sure Charlie's is gonna talk a lot more also. It's a distraction. Look over here, and then they will use that as a scaremongering factor to accomplish all of these things that was the reason for this virus to start with, for us to bend over and accept their solution to the problem, which is the real danger. Vaccines, 5G, the crash.
They've all been told, all the leaders in Europe and around the world, to create confusion and fear. And if we look back, they haven't done a bad job.
Nope.
Yeah. And, Charlie, Crowdsource the Truth viewers are already going to YouTube and signing up for the drcharlieward.com YouTube channel, which you can find by searching for Charles Ward. The comments are telling me that notifications have been disabled for your channel for some reason, which will kind of prevent people... Oh, no, they have. Well, yeah, they have. You can't click on this bell.
What happened was, for some reason, because I load my videos from my editing suite, it automatically assumes they're for children to watch. So we've had to, my guy that's doing it has got to go onto the not for children bit so that people can comment.
Got it. So perhaps we'll get that straightened out. But
yes,
people
he's been working on it. The trouble is I've done 90 videos in 90 days, so... Right. He's got a busy job going through every single one.
It's a problem I'm well familiar with. I want to ask you something about a comment you made earlier. You were told by them that now they've got Trump in power. Does that imply that he was placed there by this same group that wants to crush everything?
I think, from what I understand, and we're talking about people at very senior level in the US government, they made it very, very clear that Trump was targeted to do this job. And the job that he was there to do was to drain the swamp. Well, he came out and said that very early on, that he'd come in to drain the swamp.
Yeah.
He was the perfect man because he's a narcissist. He's an egomaniac. And the funny part about it is the only president that's been in power and has actually landed up looking younger after 4 years than the rest of them.
So what do you think that indicates?
Might be something to do with Melania, I suppose. She's better looking girl than Hillary Clinton, I'll give you that. But yeah. No, he was chosen. It was very, very clear. I've done an awful lot of research on the history. First of all, of Q, which is like a conspiracy theory out of the White House, which was created in 1962 by John F. Kennedy.
QAnon.
Because he feared for his life. So he had, in England, we have, as you would know, we have secret services with numbers, 007. America tend to use letters like M. Q is the unknown one. And this was the unknown people that were getting information out when John F. Kennedy was in power because he feared for his life.
Huh.
after he was killed, there was a number of people from Q that have vanished completely. So they went to ground for many, many years. And they've sort of built up, but they've kept a low profile. And every time they stuck their head up, from all those years from 1963 onwards, somebody was that they were removed by whoever.
Huh. So you're saying that Q is a group, high-level intelligence group?
It's an intelligence group which started off at around 200 people. September the 11th was when they regrouped the group of people, because this was the second time in history that they tried to launch Jassara and Nasara. The first time John F. Kennedy was killed. The second time was September the 11th.
Jassara and what is that?
Nasara. It's a way. It's removing the fiat currency and removing debt, which is, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to work out that I just wish I'd thought of it first. Print money, give it away, then want it back with tax and interest.
Right. Yeah. Well, I guess
we'll get into... It's about as corrupt as you could ever get.
Yeah. And we'll have an opportunity to get into the details. I've never heard of that, what you just mentioned before, but we're going to have plenty of time to discuss it once we get into the sponsor exclusive segment. Some of the chat comments are asking Charlie, are you a medical doctor?
No, I studied psychology, but I've never practiced. But on purpose, I avoid too much about it because it distracts from the main issue.
Right. And even in our conversations, you kind of avoid having people call you doctor. You prefer to be
I'd much rather be called Charlie.
Got it.
I also want to point out that in this discussion we're going to have, I'm going to ask Charlie a lot about the current situation with the British royal family, alleged royal family, which is actually a German, of German heritage. Yeah. But that the real King of England seems to be found and is now being brought forward. And there's a lot going on behind the scenes where it seems like some of the alleged or the official royalties are going for a run, going into hiding, and including Queen Elizabeth. So I think it's going to be a very interesting hour here in front of us.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely.
Certainly Prince Andrew is having a lot of problems, and there definitely seem to be a lot of connections between people like Jimmy Savile, Jeffrey Epstein. There's a lot of odd things those guys have in common. So there's going to be quite a bit to discuss. Now, Charlie, you said you've been moving money around the world. Can you give us any more detail about exactly what that is?
Well, it's something I've done for many, many years now, but it's been a full-time job for me for the last 15 to 20 years. And most people are unaware of how much physical cash is actually out there. And just to put it into perspective, it doesn't matter how rich you are. There's not one single bank in the world that you can get insurance for more than 75,000, whether it's euros, dollars, or pounds. So if you're a billionaire and the bank goes bankrupt, you'll only get 75,000 back. This is why most billionaires are not cash billionaires, but they've got property, they've got investments. They don't have it in cash. Now, many of the super rich do have huge vaults of cash. And I've landed up working for them for a number of years. And we have situations whereby they'll want to buy something somewhere. So we'll have to move the money from wherever it is to another location, move the cash. We can either take the cash. Everything that we do, it's not money laundering because all the cash is fully documented. It's all registered with the banks and it's all fully insured.
Right.
By the storage facilities it's in. But as examples right now, we've got clients who've got huge amounts of cash in Switzerland and they want it put into the bank. So that becomes our job, and we will we find it very easy to put it into the bank because we have all the correct documentation. We've got the history of the funds, the source of the funds. We've got all the details of the cash that we're dealing with. There is also a tremendous amount of cash that moves around the world to assure certain governments get into power. If you think for 1 minute that your vote really does count, sadly you're going to be mistaken. But it gets decided financially by, especially in Africa, because they have their own little favourites. They want, so when elections come up in Africa, they all pay certain people to make sure they get into power.
It seems like that system is moving to the United States more quickly than people realize, and there's been a lot of attention on the state of Minnesota and specifically Minneapolis with this murder of George Floyd. In Pursuit of Truth over the weekend released a very well done documentary about some of the strange details and coincidences surrounding this death of George Floyd. Something that clicked in my head: we've got a check cashing business inside of Cup Foods. That comes from the 911 transcript of the owner of Cup Foods calling the police. He says, "We have a check cashing business, so we see a lot of counterfeit bills." What hasn't been really publicized is that there is another competitive check cashing business inside the Nuevo Rodeo restaurant where George Floyd and Derek Chauvin worked. That entire building burned down. There was also an office for the Independent Order of Odd Fellows. And it seems that the guy who is the head of that organization in Minneapolis is tied to a lot of other groups, Muslim Brotherhood type groups, and the funding of political campaigns for people like Keith Ellison and some of the local politicians, even members of the city, what's the group that's trying to defund the police? They've got their little city council.
Antifa?
Well, no, the city council of Minneapolis contains supporters of Antifa. So as you've described in Africa, it seems like Somalia has been imported to Minneapolis, and some of these warlord type fiefdoms are building up in that city, infiltrating the United States. And most people don't even see this, but we're about to make the transition over to our sponsor exclusive show. So I want to make sure people have a moment to make their way to patreon.com/lightonconspiracies, patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, and subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth. I also want to make sure our viewers are aware that Dr. Charlie Ward has a YouTube channel that you can subscribe to. It's absolutely free, and Charlie is putting out a lot of informative videos, about one a day. So get onto the YouTube channel and catch up with what Charlie has been revealing. People can also follow Ole daily on the lightonconspiracies.com website. You can access Ole's vault of decades of research and contact him about getting your own copy of that. Of course, you can follow Ole on Patreon and his daily posts. Gentlemen, I'll see you in just about 5 minutes when we resume on Patreon and Subscribestar.
Okay, just one quick thing.
Yes.
My drcharlieward.com is not, the website is, they've got an issue with it, so it's drcharlieward.co.uk.
Got it. People can go to drcharlieward.co.uk and learn more about Charlie Ward and the research.
And that will take you straight in there. Yeah.
There you go. There's the website right there. So there's a lot that we're going to learn, and I'm certainly looking forward to the conversation. We'll see everybody over there. Thanks for watching.